In the annals of forgotten lore, there are tales of courage, magic, and the quiet, stubborn power of a hopeful heart. Our story begins not with a bang, but with a silence that had fallen over the once vibrant kingdom of Eldoria. At its heart sat a queen, Seraphina, whose beauty was as renowned as the fortress of ice she had built around her soul. She ruled from a throne of polished obsidian, her face a mask of regal sorrow. Years ago, Queen Seraphina had loved a king with the fire of 1,000 suns. He was a man of adventure and bold promises, and he had sailed away one day, vowing to return with the stars themselves as her dowry. He never came back. The sea, or perhaps another's arms, had claimed him, and with his loss, Seraphina's heart had petrified. She concluded that love was not a flame to be nurtured, but a wildfire that consumed everything, leaving only ash and regret. She would not suffer that pain again, and more importantly, she would not allow her only child to suffer it. Princess Aurelia was the kingdom's secret sorrow. She was everything her mother was not, warm, kind, and filled with an unyielding light. She was locked away, not in a dungeon of stone and iron, but in the highest spire of the castle, a gilded cage with a breathtaking view of a world she could not touch. To protect her from the perceived poison of love, Queen Seraphina decreed a challenge for any would-be suitor. 3 impossible tasks. Failure meant a fate worse than death. They were simply erased, vanished from the kingdom, their names and deeds swallowed by the queen's chilling decree. Many princes, brave and foolish, had tried. None had returned. Far from the opulent sorrow of Eldoria, in a small, unassuming kingdom nestled between rolling hills, lived Prince Kaelen. His father reigned over a land rich in kindness but poor in coin. Their castle had no towering ramparts, their army was a handful of loyal farmers, and their treasury held more memories than gold. But Kaelen was a prince of dreams, his spirit unburdened by the cynicism of the world. One night, a vision came to him, as vivid and real as the dawn that followed. He saw a young woman with hair like spun moonlight, her face streaked with tears, standing in a high tower room. She clutched a single luminous golden flower, and her whisper seemed to cross the miles to find him. "Please," she breathed, "find me. My hope is fading, but I am still waiting." Kaelen awoke like a jolt, his heart hammering against his ribs. The image was seared into his mind. "I must go," he declared to his father that morning, his eyes burning with a newfound purpose. "I saw her. I know she is real, and I must answer her call." The old king's face, etched with the gentle lines of a long and peaceful life, clouded with fear. "No, my son," he pleaded. "Queen Seraphina is a monarch of broken hearts and shattered lives. Her challenges are traps. Many have gone. None have returned. Your spirit is all the treasure I have. I cannot lose it." "But I cannot rest," Kaelen insisted, his voice thick with emotion. "Her voice is in my head. Her sorrow is in my heart. To do nothing would be a slower, more certain death than any challenge she could devise." Seeing the unshakable resolve in his son's eyes, the king relented. He pulled Kaelen into a tight embrace, a father's desperate prayer. "Then go," he whispered, "but do not go as they did, with arrogance and steel. Go with an open heart. Find strength not only within yourself, but on the road you travel." With his father's blessing as his only armor, Kaelen set out. He had no squire, no grand steed, only the worn leather of his boots and a courage that burned brighter than any crown jewel. His journey led him to a peculiar sight, a mountain that seemed to be breathing. As he drew closer, he saw it was no mountain at all, but a colossal man lying on his back, his snores shaking the very ground. "Good day, sir," Kaelen said loudly. "What are you doing here?" The man's eyes fluttered open. "I have just concluded breakfast," he boomed, his voice like a gentle avalanche. "A mere 10 chickens, 100 cakes, and a small barrel of ale. Now I am contemplating lunch." Kaelen smiled. I am on a quest to a place with grand feasts. Join me. Your appetite could be a great asset, and I will see you are well fed. Food, the man rumbled, sitting up and causing a minor earthquake. Promise me food, and I will follow you to the ends of the earth. Kaelen offered him the last of his bread and cheese. The giant man devoured it in a single bite and beamed. You may call me Boro. Further on, Kaelen found a man pressed to the earth, his ear to the soil, as if listening for a secret. What troubles the world that you listen so intently? Kaelen asked. The man looked up, his eyes distant. The world is never silent, he said softly. In a forest 1,000 leagues east, a caterpillar has just become a butterfly. Far to the south, a child has spoken its first word. Can you hear a princess? Kaelen asked, his heart quickening. In a tower in Eldoria? The man closed his eyes, his brow furrowed in concentration. Ah, yes. Her song is faint, a melody of sadness and hope. She is crying. I can hear the echo of her tears. He stood. A song that sad is worth finding. I will join you. I am Silas. Their path was next blocked by what appeared to be a dense thicket of willow branches, until Kaelen realized they were arms. They belonged to an impossibly tall, slender man who was using them to scratch an itch on his back, his fingers wrapping around his body 3 times over. Can you help me reach something that is far away? Kaelen inquired. Far is a matter of perspective, the man said, his voice a gentle rustle like leaves in the wind. I can retrieve a cloud from the sky or a pebble from a well. Call me Leon. Soon after, they came upon a man standing stock still, one hand held firmly over his left eye. Are you wounded? Kaelen asked with concern. No, the man replied, his visible eye sharp and piercing. I am shielded. With both eyes open, I see too much. I see through stone, through flesh, through the veils of what is and what will be. It is a torrent. Can you see through a queen's deceptions? The man lowered his hand for a second, and his gaze seemed to look straight through Kaelen and into his very soul. He quickly covered his eye again. Her deceptions are built on a foundation of pain. Yes, I can see them. My name is Orion. Finally, as the sun beat down on a sweltering summer day, the group met a man wrapped in a thick fur coat, his teeth chattering. I'm so cold, he stammered. Cold? It's the hottest day of the year, exclaimed Boro. If I were to remove this coat, the man said, hugging himself tighter, a blizzard would fall. Winter is bound to my heart. It is my gift and my curse. A useful curse, Kaelen mused. We may face a fiery trial. Will you help us? Perhaps a great fire will finally warm me, the man said with a sliver of a smile. Call me Freyan. And so Prince Kaelen arrived at the gates of Eldoria, not alone and armed for battle, but with 5 strange and wonderful companions, his own small army of miracles. He stood before Queen Seraphina and announced, Your Majesty, I have come to complete your challenges for the hand of Princess Aurelia. The queen's smile was a sliver of ice. A bold pronouncement from a prince with no army. Very well. Your first task. Retrieve my lost azure jewel from the bottom of the great river. You have until sunset. The river was a raging torrent, its waters deep and cloudy. Where is it? Kaelen asked. Orion uncovered his eye. There, trapped beneath a heavy stone where the current is strongest. Leon's long arms plunged into the water, his fingers stretching, but the current was too powerful. He couldn't get a grip. Boro simply laughed. He knelt at the riverbank, opened his cavernous mouth, and began to drink. The water level dropped with astonishing speed. With a final mighty gulp, the river was gone, leaving behind a muddy, flopping collection of fish and, gleaming in the center, the azure jewel. Leon calmly picked it up and handed it to Kaelen. When Kaelen presented the jewel, Queen Seraphina's hand trembled as she took it. "Impossible," she breathed. The next morning, she announced the second task. "You will feast in my grand hall. Before you will be placed 40 roasted peacocks. You must consume them all before the noon bell tolls. If a single feather remains, your life is forfeit." "May I bring a guest?" Kaelen asked. "One," the queen sneered. He brought Boro. By the time the noon bell chimed, not only were the 40 peacocks gone, but so were the platters, the side dishes, the fruit displays, the tapestries on the wall, and a small wooden table. "Still a bit peckish," Boro announced, patting his stomach. The queen had turned a deathly pale. This was not a suitor. This was a force of nature. That evening, the queen feigned kindness. She invited Kaelen to her private chambers, serving him spiced wine and honey cakes. Hidden within the drink was a potent sleeping draught. Then she led him to the tower room. There, bathed in the golden light of sunset, was Aurelia. Her smile was a fragile, beautiful thing. They spoke of stars and dreams, and for a moment, Kaelen felt a connection so profound it stole his breath. But soon his eyelids grew heavy. The world blurred, and he slumped into a deep sleep. He awoke half an hour later in a panic. The room was empty. Aurelia was gone. He rushed to the window and shouted, "Silas, where is she?" Silas pressed his ear to the castle stone. "I hear her weeping. It comes from inside the great gnarled oak tree across the frozen moat." "She's there," Orion confirmed, his eye wide, "trapped by a binding spell." "The moat is too wide to cross," Kaelen cried in despair. "My turn," said Freyan quietly. He unclasped his heavy coat. As he shrugged it from his shoulders, a blast of Arctic air erupted from him. Snow began to fall in thick flurries. The air crackled with cold, and the dark water of the moat froze into a solid bridge of ice. They sprinted across. When they reached the ancient oak, Leon wrapped his long arms around the trunk. With a great groan of protesting wood, he gently pried the tree open, revealing a terrified Aurelia within. She ran into Kaelen's arms. They raced back across the ice bridge, just as Freyan was refastening his coat. The ice began to crack and splinter behind them. Leon lifted Kaelen and Aurelia effortlessly back through the tower window, seconds before the queen entered. "You're early," Kaelen said. "We were just discussing botany." The queen's face was a storm of fury. That night, she gave Kaelen and his friends a lavish guest suite. But deep in the dungeons below, her guards stoked a massive furnace, its vents directed straight into the floor of their room. "They mean to cook us alive," Silas whispered, his ear to the floor, hearing the roar of the flames. A slow smile spread across Freyan's face. "For the first time all day," he sighed contentedly, "I'm beginning to feel warm." "Freyan," Kaelen commanded gently, "your coat, just for a moment." Freyan unclasped it again. A wave of intense cold washed through the room. Frost crept across the stone floor, down the walls, and into the vents. Deep below, the inferno sputtered, hissed, and died, encased in a tomb of ice. The queen, hearing only silence, assumed the deed was done. She opened the door, a triumphant smile on her lips, only to be met by Kaelen and his friends, who walked out laughing into the corridor. "A bit chilly in there," Boro complained. "Let's find a fire to sit by." Queen Seraphina fell to her knees, her composure finally shattered. "You have passed the tests," she whispered, defeated. "I cannot stop you." Kaelen knelt before her, his expression not of triumph, but of compassion. "Your Majesty, why? Why all of this?" Tears, the first she had shed in decades, traced paths down her stoic face. "I loved once," she confessed, her voice cracking. "I gave my whole heart, and it was lost to me. The pain, it hollowed me out. I built these walls, devised these tests, not to protect my daughter from the world, but to protect her from that pain. I thought if Aurelia never loved, she would never be broken." Kaelen looked at her gently. "A heart shielded from pain is also a heart shielded from joy. You built a fortress to keep suitors out,
But its true purpose was to keep your own heart locked in. In trying to save your daughter from your past, you were forcing her to live it with you. You don't have to lose her. You don't have to be alone in your grief. The queen wept, a storm of pent-up sorrow finally unleashed. When she was done, a profound calm settled over her. The ice had finally broken. She gave the couple her blessing and abdicated the throne, leaving the castle to find peace in a quiet coastal villa, where she could finally mourn her lost king without a crown to weigh her down.
Kaelen and Aurelia were married under the boughs of the great oak that had once been her prison, its leaves shimmering like gold in the sunlight. Standing beside them were not servants or guards, but their 5 loyal friends, Boro, Silas, Leon, Orion, and Freyan, who were no longer companions on a quest, but architects of a new and happier future. They had become family. The story of Eldoria became a new kind of legend. It taught that love is never truly safe. It is a wild and unpredictable sea. But it also taught that with courage, with kindness, and with the strength of true friendship, it is the one voyage always worth taking.